Until recently, it was believed that psychology and philosophy went hand in hand, until the 70s of the 19th century when they became separate and independent sciences. Since then, shocking facts about psychology and astonishing information about the human psyche have begun to unfold to us, which studies have proven how complex and overlapping its components and elements are. In today's video, we'll highlight some of the patterns you notice in yourself and others, from why you think food tastes better when someone makes it up to why you sometimes see familiar human faces in inanimate things like clouds. 1. If you have a plan B, your original plan is unlikely to succeed. Sometimes, it may be better not to be too reassured by the results, as the risk factor is one of the most important reasons why we are careful and avoid making mistakes. In a series of experiments conducted by the University of Pennsylvania, researchers found that when volunteers thought of a backup plan before starting a particular task, their performance was worse than those who did not think of any plan B also. When they realized they had other options, their motivation to succeed dropped dramatically compared to volunteers who didn't have any options. Therefore, the researchers emphasized that thinking about the future is a good idea, but you may achieve greater success if you keep these plans vague and settle for your present. 2. Fear can sometimes be a source of happiness. When you watch a scary movie or try an aerobic game at an amusement park, your brain secretes amounts of adrenaline as well as endorphins and dopamine, hormones responsible for happiness. It's true that you're scared then, but your brain is fully aware that you're not really in danger, so it keeps these hormones at the normal level, which in turn makes you feel excited and happy. 3. Yawning is a means of social communication. Have you ever wondered why you yawn when you see someone else yawning? The reason for yawning itself remains mysterious, as is it when it is contagious, but some scientists believe that yawning when seeing others yawn is only a way to increase bonding and communication with members of the same species as well as in humans. This explanation may seem ridiculous today, but that may have been a true means of communication in the past, when ancient man was not yet able to communicate in clear spoken language. 4. Humans tend to be affected by the tragedy of one person more than by the tragedy of a group. In another study conducted at the University of Pennsylvania, researchers presented a case to one group about a young girl who was starving to death, while another group showed statistics for millions of people dying of hunger. And finally, a third group presented both cases. People in the experiment, when they heard about the suffering of the little girl, donated more than twice as much as they did when they heard about the suffering of millions of people. And even the group that heard about the tragedy of the girl in the context of the larger tragedy donated less. Psychologists think we're forced to help the person in front of us, but when the problem seems too big, we see that our small role doesn't do much that reduces our motivation to help. 5. One negative idea for every 5 positive thoughts. Our brains have the so-called negative bias that makes us remember bad news more than good news, which is why you quickly forget that your coworker praised your presentation, but you continue to think about an insult you've experienced from someone. Psychologists say that you need 5 positive things for every single negative thing in order to feel balanced in your life. This means that how many positive things in your life are much more than negative things, don't you think so? 6. Food tastes better when someone makes it. Have you ever wondered why you prefer the taste of the sandwich you eat in the restaurant over the one you make at home, even if you use the same ingredients? The reason behind this is simple. Preparing a meal for yourself requires you to stand tall on its preparation and cooking, which reduces your susceptibility and appetite for food, and therefore you will not feel well the taste of it when you eat it. 7. The mind prefers to know the worst than not to be ignorant of the future. Some researchers who have published their work in the journal Nature have found it less stressful for the human mind to know that something negative is about to happen than not knowing what will happen at all. For example, we prefer to know that we won't succeed in getting a certain job than to keep thinking that there's even a small chance that we'll be accepted. The reason for this is that the part of the brain that predicts the consequences, whether good or bad, is more active when it doesn't know what to expect. In other words, the occurrence of the worst is less impactful and mind-weary than waiting for the unknown. 8. The human mind is programmed to give back. There is a rule in psychology called the reciprocity rule. This rule suggests that giving back is not just a matter of morality, but that we are programmed to want to help someone who has already helped us. Some psychologists attribute that this trait has been developed through the ages to keep society working smoothly, where people encourage themselves to help each other. This psychological trick is often used in various stores, where customers are given free gifts to make them feel the need to give back and buy some of their products. 9. Our minds are programmed to follow the choices chosen by others. In a famous experiment conducted in the 50s of the last century, a group of university students was asked to indicate which of the 3 lines drawn had the same length as the 4th line. The researchers found that when a student hears the answers of other students participating in the experiment, even if they are clearly wrong, he follows them and gives the same wrong answer. Perhaps that's why you often choose the same meals that your friend orders when you go to the restaurant for lunch. 10. Our favorite topic to talk about is ourselves. Don't blame your friend who is immersed in talking about himself. It's just the way his human brain works. According to a study by Harvard University, reward centers in our brains light up more when we talk about ourselves than when we talk about other people. Let's be honest, we all like to talk about our feelings, our own thoughts, and our life experiences. And there's nothing wrong with that. But let's make sure that our talk is not a matter of boasting and bragging. And let's give others a chance to talk about themselves as well. 11. The skill of multitasking is nothing but an illusion. One of the most unusual psychology information is that the skill of multitasking is nothing but an illusion. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology shows that even when you think you're doing two things at once, what you're actually doing is quickly switching between the two tasks, which means you're still focused on one task at a time. So it's no wonder it's hard to listen to your friend talk to you while browsing social media, because here you're actually doing two tasks together at the same time. 12. We involuntarily believe in what we want to believe. Humans fall victim to something called affirmative bias, which means a tendency to interpret facts in a way that confirms what we actually believe. So, no matter how many facts you throw at your friend in an attempt to influence their views on a particular issue, there's a high probability that they'll never change their minds. It's one of the facts in psychology that you just have to accept and admit that you can't change it. It will save you a lot of trouble when you realize that you don't have to change anyone. And don't advise anyone unless they ask you to, because then they will have the right desire to change. Otherwise, they wouldn't have resorted to you for advice. 13. Our minds want us to be lazy. Evolutionarily, our minds consider energy conservation to be good for survival. When food was scarce, our ancestors had to be prepared for anything and save their energy in anticipation of going through periods of food shortages. According to a study published in the journal Current Biology, when exercising and using a treadmill, volunteers automatically adjust their gait to burn fewer calories. Recognizing this makes you more able to control yourself and your thoughts to achieve your dreams and goals. When you realize that your mind prefers laziness, you'll start to ignore that inner voice that might ask you to give up any extra effort, and you'll work harder to stay active and motivated. Multiple options will paralyze you. We don't mean physical paralysis, of course, but paralysis of thoughts. The researchers have provided many pieces of evidence that our brains prefer a few options over a large number of them in what is known as the paradox of choice theory. An experiment was conducted on a group of buyers in a store, and the researchers found that when customers found many different types of a particular product, their demand for this product was lower than in the case of products of lower types. 15. Our minds will always make up problems. Have I ever wondered why a new problem appears after each time you overcome an obstacle or challenge in my life? It doesn't mean that the world is against you, but it certainly means that your mind is the one that stands against you. This is not surprising if you take into account all the previous psychological facts. The human mind, as we have known, does not like to be ignorant of the future, preferring something negative to happen than not knowing what will happen. In addition, it is often biased towards negative thinking and bad thoughts. All these things will make him always make up problems. After overcoming each problem, of course, he will tend to anticipate a new problem instead of imagining more positive and joyful things. 16. There's a reason why you want to squeeze nice things. Don't worry if you've seen a full-cheeked baby and feel a strong desire to age these cute cheeks. This is called gentle aggression. And the people who feel it don't really want to hurt that beautiful baby. Research published in a journal Psychology has shown that positive emotions generated at once when you see something nice also require feeling aggressive in order to balance feelings. 17. Power makes people less interested in others. You've probably heard of the famous Stanford prison experience, where a group of college students were randomly assigned so that the student was either a prisoner or a guard in a mock prison. And then guards began harassing prisoners. Things got so bad that the 2-week trial was canceled 6 days later. Subsequent studies have confirmed that when people feel they are in a position of strength, they become worse at judging a person's feelings based on their facial expressions, suggesting they lose empathy or emotional intelligence. Which previous psychology facts have interested you the most? And do you know any other shocking information about the human psyche? Share it with us through the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive all the latest videos.